Friday, and welcome to the Agent Survival Guide podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Ruppel. It is Friday, February 28th, and we are back with another end of the week recap, bringing you 5 things you should know about. As we prepare to send February 2025 packing, we are still in the transitory limbo of a new administration taking office. So we'll start out at number 5 with some updates. No word yet on the date for Dr. Oz's confirmation hearings before the Senate. Oz was tapped by President Trump to lead the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services back in November 2024. At the moment, Congress is busy working on the beginning stages of putting the Trump administration agenda into place through budget reconciliation. On Tuesday night this week, the House voted 217 to 215, passing a budget that includes $2 trillion in spending cuts, $4.8 trillion in tax cuts and additional spending, for what will ultimately be a $2.8 trillion increase to the national deficit over the course of the next 10 years. As far as healthcare spending cuts go, the current budget outline calls for $880 billion in spending cuts to the energy and commerce budget. As far as exactly where those cuts will come from, the most likely place is the Medicaid program, but nothing has been set in stone just yet. I have read that there are devastating cuts to Medicaid on the way, and I've also read that cuts to Medicaid are no longer on the table. So clearly, some details still need to be worked out. And before that can happen, the Senate must vote to pass a similar version of the bill that the House passed. So we are keeping an eye on what's happening on Capitol Hill. When there is something to report, we will be updating you about it here. Moving on to number 4. If you've recently updated your iPhone to iOS 18.3.1 and your phone alarms have been going off silently, I potentially have a fix for you. Now, the last time I had this issue, the new volume controls were the problem, specifically the ability to change the volume of ringtones and alerts with the side buttons. I didn't realize it was lowering the sound of my alarm by also adjusting those buttons, but lo and behold, when I would set a timer, my phone did not make a peep. Now I am in the habit of listening for the audible click of my phone going to sleep to make sure that my sound is on, so my alarms will also sound. Initially, when I clicked into the story, I expected a rehashing of that bug and the same subsequent fix, but it's something a little more recent. A feature called Attention Aware that could be silencing your alarms. And when I say more recent, issues date back to April 2024. So apparently for some, this has been a persistent problem. Attention Aware is an iOS feature that essentially lets your phone know that it's being perceived. Unlike the weeping angels, though, you can blink and everything will be okay. Because the iPhone knows you're looking at it, a couple of things change. Your screen stays bright, lock screen notifications expand, and the volume lowers to a more comfortable proximity level. But for some users, the attention-aware feature is incorrectly registering them as awake and looking at their phones when they are not. Then, when it's time for their alarm to sound, the phone is lowering the volume or completely silencing the sound altogether. So if you've been experiencing silent alarms and think this feature might be to blame, good news, you can toggle it off by going to your phone settings, tapping on accessibility, selecting Face ID and attention, and then toggling off the attention-aware features. Probably should point out that the silent alarm issue I experienced could still be plaguing users, so be sure to check out the settings on your sound and haptics too. We will have more info in the notes on where to find those settings. Number 3. Ruppel recommends. It has been a minute since we've done one of these, and in all honesty, the pickings have been kind of slim on streaming in the past few weeks. I did not have high expectations when I looked at the list of what is coming for March, so I have to admit I was surprised to see so much that I potentially want to watch. Currently, I have been binge-watching Resident Alien on Netflix, and I'm surprised it took me so long to actually watch it. I've passed on it a couple of times in favor of other titles, but it's so funny. It is the story of an alien who comes to Earth to wield tech that will cause a mass extermination event, and his plans are thwarted when his ship crashes, and he's forced to hide out as a human, which he's not that great at, and of course, hilarity ensues. Also on Netflix, beginning March 7th, Plankton, the movie, a musical entry in the SpongeBob SquarePants franchise. Then moving over to Disney Plus, on March 4th, Daredevil Born Again, hopefully a better attempt at that comic book adaptation than the previous versions. And then on March 12th, the premiere of Moana 2, in case you're like me and you skipped it at the theater. On March 21st, Peacock gets a new reason for my subscription. Wicked Part 1 premieres, and I guarantee my daughter will want to watch that one on repeat. And then on Apple TV Plus, which I am also not currently subscribed to, The Studio comes out on March 26th. And while it does star Seth Rogen, I would be watching for Kathryn Hahn after really enjoying her performance as Agatha in both WandaVision and Agatha All Along. Now, of course, these are just my picks for the month of March. If you would like the full list of new titles, we will have that linked in the episode notes. Number 2. In a move that at first might sound a bit surprising, on Tuesday this week, Adobe announced Photoshop Mobile. According to early reports, this is the closest Adobe has gotten to the classic Photoshop experience on mobile yet. And it's not for not trying. The new app joins other photo editing apps from Adobe, Photoshop Express, Adobe Express, and Lightroom. Each app has their uses, price points, and fan bases, but none have put so much of the original into one place. Adobe's previous approach was to parcel out features and tools between services. This was the first time they approached the app from a mobile-first standpoint, with the intention of crafting a true Photoshop experience, coupled with recent advancements in touch technology and AI workflow understanding. The new user interface is something they call Select and Do. Rather than tapping through menus like you would do on the desktop version of Photoshop, you select what you'd like to do, and the app will suggest options you can take next. One of the first things I like to test on a photo editing app is the often needed background removal and replacement. Photoshop Mobile completed that task for me faster than the time it took to choose the image from my photo roll. It did take a little bit for me to figure out how the layers worked so I could bring my image to the foreground and then send the new background behind it, but I did get it. I think the benefit in Adobe waiting so long to create this particular app is that we have a better working knowledge of small-scale touch-based interfaces than we did even 5 years ago. If you've previously used a photo editing app, even just a basic one, I think you'd be able to open up Photoshop Mobile and get going fairly quickly. But if you do have trouble, the app includes tutorials that start with the basic concepts of layers, masks, and selections, then builds on those concepts and shows how to combine elements for more complex projects. Photoshop Mobile has a decent amount of tools available for free, but of course there are premium features reserved behind a paywall for a subscription fee, and that is currently running at $8 per month or $70 for the year. However, if you already have a paid Photoshop subscription, you get access to Photoshop Mobile on the same Adobe ID for no extra charge. Photoshop Mobile is currently only available for iPhone, but Adobe is working on an Android version expected to launch later this year. And coming in at number 1 this week, yesterday we held our Senior Market Symposium event in King of Prussia, featuring our workshop on mastering nonverbal communication for those who attended in person. And then after a quick break for lunch, we heard from our CEO, Craig Ritter, who delivered his State of the Senior Market presentation. Just wanted to say thank you so much to those of you who attended. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot. I know I did. And that is just the beginning of the webinars and events we have coming up over the next few weeks. First up, just a reminder that the team here at Ritter Insurance Marketing holds webinars on a regular basis. Our integrity partners hold webinars on a regular basis as well. Some of those webinars are series that happen regularly, while others are one-off presentations around a particular product or topic. But we will have the links to both of those webinar schedules in the episode notes, so be sure you check out those links, bookmark them, and then check back because we are always adding to those online experiences. And then as far as in-person experiences, we've got another one of those coming up very soon. That is our very first SNP Summit, our very first Special Needs Plan Summit, and that is happening on March 13th, also in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, but at a brand new location. Special needs plans have been gaining momentum, and we think that is going to continue for 2025 and into the future. This summit is designed to give agents all the info you need to learn the ins and outs of special needs plans. We have a full day planned with carrier presentations, panel discussions, an open expo room, food, happy hour, and plenty of giveaways, raffles, and swag for those who attend. Registration for our SNP Summit is open at summits.ritterim.com, and we will have the link in the episode notes as well. And the date again for the SNP Summit, Thursday, March 13th, in person at the Alloy in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. If you have questions about the SNP Summit, an upcoming webinar, or any of the topics we mentioned here today, you can always reach out to us by emailing asgpodcast@ritterim.com. And with that, we are at the end of another episode, in addition to almost the end of another month. I hope you have a great weekend. Stay healthy and stay safe out there, and we will see you next week. The Agent Survival Guide podcast is a production of Ritter Insurance Marketing, an integrity company. This episode was written and produced by me, Sarah Ruppel. Script editing and fact check by Tina Lamoureux. Podcast design by Urban Rivera. Artwork by Vivian Zhao. Follow along with us wherever you like to listen.